There are nights in baseball when everything that has been building beneath the surface finally breaks through. When the tensions that have been quietly accumulating in a clubhouse, in a dugout, in the private conversations between coaches and management, suddenly become impossible to contain. When one moment, one swing, one decision, one act of disrespect, pulls back the curtain on everything that has been wrong for weeks. That night at Dodger Stadium was one of those nights. And by the time it was over, 3 players were gone, a clubhouse was in shock, and the entire baseball world was asking the same question. How did it come to this? Shohei Ohtani hit his 24th home run of the season that night. It was the kind of swing that silences a stadium for a half-second before the roar begins, clean, powerful, and utterly inevitable in the way that only Ohtani's best home runs are. The ball left the bat with that particular sound, rose in a high and majestic arc, and cleared the fence with distance to spare. For one brief moment, everything in Dodger Stadium was exactly as it should be. The crowd was on its feet. The Dodgers dugout erupted. And Shohei Ohtani rounded the bases with the quiet, focused expression of a man who had done this before and fully intended to do it again. But according to multiple sources with direct knowledge of what occurred that evening, the celebration did not last. Because within hours of that home run, within hours of what should have been one of the purest and most joyful moments of the Dodgers season, the organization made 3 decisions that sent shockwaves through the clubhouse, through the fan base, and through the wider baseball world. Cole Irvin was traded. Theo Scar was traded. And Kim Ha-seong was sent back to Korea. The night that belonged to Ohtani's 24th home run had been completely overtaken by something else entirely. According to multiple inside sources, the decisions had not come suddenly. The trades and the roster moves that shocked the baseball world that evening had been building for some time inside the Dodgers organization. According to those with direct knowledge of the internal situation, the Dodgers front office had been monitoring several players closely over the preceding weeks, watching not just their performance on the field, but their behavior in the clubhouse, their attitude in team meetings, and their willingness to operate within the culture and philosophy that manager Dave Roberts has worked to build. And according to multiple sources, what the front office saw during that period of observation had troubled them deeply. It has been reported that the decision to move all 3 players was not made lightly and was not made quickly. It was made, according to those familiar with the process, after a careful and serious evaluation of what each player was contributing, and what each player was costing the team in ways that do not appear in any box score. Of the 3 departures, it was Cole Irvin's that generated the most immediate and intense reaction within the organization. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge of what occurred, Irvin's behavior in the weeks leading up to the trade had become a growing source of concern among both the coaching staff and his fellow players. But it was one specific incident, an incident involving Shohei Ohtani, that, according to those present, crossed a line that the Dodgers organization was not prepared to overlook. According to multiple eyewitnesses, Irvin had been visibly and vocally dismissive toward Ohtani on more than one occasion in recent weeks. According to those present during these incidents, the dismissiveness was not subtle. It was not the kind of tension that exists quietly between players who simply do not connect personally. According to multiple sources, Irvin's attitude toward Ohtani carried a quality of open disrespect that made those who witnessed it deeply uncomfortable. Players who were present during these moments reported that the atmosphere in the immediate aftermath was tense and unsettled in a way that lingered. It has been reported that when word of Irvin's behavior reached the higher levels of the Dodgers organization, the reaction was swift and unambiguous. According to multiple sources, there was no extended deliberation at that point. The organization's position, according to those familiar with the internal discussions, was clear. Disrespect toward Shohei Ohtani, toward any teammate, but particularly toward the player who represents everything the Dodgers are trying to build, was not something the organization was willing to accommodate. The trade was finalized shortly afterward. The reaction from within the clubhouse, according to multiple sources, was immediate. According to those present when the news was delivered, the atmosphere shifted in a way that players and staff described as heavy and charged simultaneously. There was anger, not at the organization's decision, but at the behavior that had made the decision necessary. According to multiple sources, several Dodgers players expressed their feelings about Irvin's conduct openly in the hours following the announcement. The word that came up repeatedly, according to those familiar with these conversations, was the same word: disrespectful. According to those present, the players who spoke most strongly were the ones who had witnessed Irvin's behavior toward Ohtani directly. For them, the trade was not a surprise. It was, according to multiple sources, a relief. The situation surrounding Kim Ha-seong was different in its specifics but similar in its fundamental nature. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge of the internal discussions, Kim's departure had been under consideration for some time. The same concerns that had surfaced in earlier weeks, questions about his baseball IQ, his ability to read game situations, his willingness to subordinate individual instincts to the team's broader tactical philosophy, had not resolved themselves. According to those familiar with the coaching staff's assessment, if anything, they had deepened. But it was the response from the Korean media and from Kim himself that, according to multiple inside sources, accelerated the timeline and hardened the organization's position. According to those with direct knowledge of the situation, the Dodgers front office had been monitoring the statements coming out of the Korean media closely. The warnings directed at the organization, the suggestions that there would be consequences if Kim was moved, had not had the intended effect. According to multiple sources, those statements had the opposite effect entirely. It has been reported that inside the Dodgers organization, the strong language coming from the Korean side was received with a reaction that was quiet and firm in equal measure. According to those familiar with the internal response, the position of the organization was straightforward. The Dodgers make roster decisions based on what is best for the Dodgers. External pressure, regardless of where it comes from or how loudly it is expressed, does not factor into those decisions. And according to multiple sources, the announcement of Kim's departure was accompanied, in internal discussions, by a sentiment that several people present described with the same phrase: pay the price. For Kim himself, according to those familiar with his situation, the news landed with considerable force. It has been reported that Kim had been aware for some time that his position on the roster was uncertain. But according to multiple sources, the finality of the decision, and the manner in which the Korean media's intervention had failed to change anything, was difficult to process. According to those close to Kim, he had genuinely believed that his value to the team was understood and recognized at the organizational level. The realization that the organization's assessment differed significantly from his own understanding of his situation was, according to those familiar with his reaction, deeply sobering. According to multiple sources, Kim's departure from the Dodgers clubhouse was quiet. There were no dramatic scenes, no raised voices, no confrontations. According to those present, Kim gathered his things with the particular composure of someone who is absorbing something difficult and has chosen not to show how difficult it is. According to eyewitnesses, very few words were exchanged. The silence, according to those present, said everything that words could not. Theo Scar's departure, according to multiple sources, was the most straightforward of the three from a purely organizational standpoint. According to those familiar with the decision, Scar had simply not developed in the direction the Dodgers had projected, and the trade represented an opportunity to recoup value while restructuring the roster in a way that better served the team's immediate needs. According to those with knowledge of the internal discussions, the decision regarding Scar had been under consideration for several weeks and was finalized alongside the moves involving Irvin and Kim as part of a broader organizational reset. But the timing, coming on the same night as Ohtani's 24th home run, meant that Scar's departure, like the others, was absorbed into a narrative that was larger and more charged than any individual roster move. Because by the time the full picture of the evening became clear, it was not possible to look at any one of the three departures in isolation. They were part of the same story. The story of a Dodgers organization that had looked at what was happening beneath the surface of its clubhouse and decided, firmly and without hesitation, that something had to change. In the days that followed, the reaction from fans and media was exactly what the scale of the evening demanded. The baseball world had watched Ohtani hit his 24th home run. It had then watched the Dodgers tear apart a section of their roster on the same night. The combination of those two things, the extraordinary and the turbulent, arriving simultaneously, created a moment that was impossible to look away from. And at the center of all of it, as he so often is, was Shohei Ohtani, who had hit his home run, rounded his bases, and returned to a dugout that was about to be changed forever. Who had, as he always does, simply focused on the game, and left everything else to take care of itself. The Dodgers, it seems, were paying very close attention. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This story is far from over. And if you want to stay ahead of every development inside the Dodgers clubhouse, subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss what happens next.